BBC Radio Newcastle.
And this is Total Sport on BBC Radio Newcastle. Before we relive the game against Arsenal, Steve, we are going to hear a bit more from Eddie Howe a bit later in the programme, looking ahead to the Dortmund game. But the one headline that has come out, or the biggest headline that has come out of his media conference ahead of the Champions League game today, involves injury news. So we'll talk about that first, then we'll go back to the game at the weekend. Matt's Target, who has that hamstring problem that he picked up at Manchester United in the Cup in midweek last week, and Dan Burn with that back problem that he went off with at the weekend, each possibly out for a few months. I think he said a couple of months for Burn, 3 months for Target, obviously just an estimate. So that's a big blow, isn't it?
Yeah, huge. I mean, you look at the incident, I think when Dan Burn, are you looking at, has he done that when he's jumped up and landed on his back? Is that when, probably, unless he's been carrying a back injury before that?
I think that's when he did it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for a lot of players, that happens a lot, to be quite honest. And normally, yes, whilst it hurts, you can play on and you get over it. But he must have twisted it probably in a way that he didn't want to, and that's why he's going to be out for the period of time that he is, which is a huge blow. I think this is, we're seeing now, the real importance of having strength and depth in a squad, because of the injuries that Newcastle seem to be getting him in. Obviously, Murphy as well comes on and comes back off pretty quickly with his shoulder. It looks as though, as I said, the surgery there. You'd mentioned about the fullback as well. And of course we've got Isak, who's, I don't know how long he's going to be. So of course there is a few injuries to the players. I mean, one good thing was obviously when you look at probably the players that's on the periphery, if you want, and how well they performed against Manchester United, then I definitely think that has pleased the manager. And I think, if I'm being honest, probably surprised me a little bit at the standard they were at. Not trying to be derogatory towards them, but I just thought they possibly mightn't get that result against Manchester United. And yet, for me, I thought they were absolutely excellent. But yeah, I mean, they are mounting up, but like every team, I suppose, well, apart from Man City, you would have to say, they've got to get on with it.
We will talk a little bit more about how he will cope with the absence of those two players, Burn, and perhaps his natural replacement Target, later on in the programme. We'll look back on Saturday now, though. Games between Newcastle and Arsenal, well, they've tended in recent times to have had their fair share of incident, haven't they? And indeed a bit of feistiness too, and Saturday evening's clash at St James's Park was no different.
Back out wide to Gordon, corner of the area, taking on Saka. It's found Bruno, edge of the box, can't get the shot away, floats in the cross, headed down, and then Wilson over the top. Offside flags up anyway, but that was a huge chance, and Callum Wilson will be delighted that the assistant has flagged for offside. Arsenal throw on the left, Havertz looking for Saka, Fabian Schär, brilliant recovery challenge, Longstaff caught late by Kai Havertz, and it's all going to kick off here. It's a yellow card for Havertz. Dan Burn involved. Oh, there's a scuffle off the side of the pitch. Longstaff is rolling around, and Havertz is having to be led away to Trippier. Good delivery from Trippier. Gordon at the back post. Couldn't get enough on it. It rather hit him than Gordon, with a deliberate act to divert the ball towards goal, and Raya claims down by his right-hand post. Ball onto Joelinton, a good one, accurate pass headed down to Bruno, pushing it through for the run of Gordon. What a ball from Bruno. Joelinton wants it back. Gordon might go himself. It's still Anthony Gordon. He's rolled it back to Bruno, who goes into the box and then plays it to Trippier. Delivers the cross and it's headed away. Bodies forwards for this Arsenal. Trippier heads away. Tomiyasu on, and then it was Nketiah who took a swing at it, couldn't get there. Newcastle clear it up to Wilson, and they might have a chance with Almiron on the run. Edge of the area, through for Anthony Gordon. Left side of the box, Gordon, it's blocked. And it's picked up by Raya. Kept in, is it, by Willock? Brilliant from Willock. In the corner on the far side. Looks for the cross, it's on the line. It's in! It's in from Anthony Gordon. Joe Willock, brilliant work on the far side to keep the attack alive after the ball over from Murphy flashed across goal, and it was sent into the middle towards Joelinton. It dropped away from Raya, and Anthony Gordon stuck it in almost on the goal line. It's Newcastle United 1, Arsenal 0.
Well, they're big 3 points for us. Who knows, and as the season unfolds, how important, but just a brilliant battling performance from the players who gave it absolutely everything today under fatigue. So full credit to the players. They deserve all the praise.
Right, Steve, where should we start? Shall we start with, was it a goal? Was it right to be awarded?
Yes, I think it was. It's not offside, so let's just put that one to bed.
Okay, so of the three, the offside one we can probably dismiss. Of the three reasons why it could have been chalked off.
Yeah, for the ball out, I was working yesterday at the Nottingham Forest Aston Villa game, and I was speaking to one of the refereeing coaches after the game when I was driving back. And he suggested, why don't we have the line? Obviously, we've got goal line technology, but why don't we do it all the way along? That would kind of, put that one to bed. But it's obviously not there. So again, the can't be conclusive if it was in or out. But you have seen on social media, which I'm pretty sure most people have seen that, where somebody's put a piece of paper down and the ball, and it looks clearly, nowhere near the piece of paper, but just walking towards it. Obviously, the circumference of the ball is actually touching the line, so it's in. Mm-hmm. Not all the ball is out. I mean, we see it numerous times, week in, week out, lots of times when players are taking corners. You see that kind of thing. It looks out, but it's not. Yeah. So I actually think that it was in.
Yeah. They're often given, if the assistant sees that, they often give it as out when it probably isn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say, and it probably wasn't conclusive, was it, from any of the angles that you could see? It wasn't conclusive.
Plus, for the referee
as well,
he's got two posts to look through on that side. If he is that side, he's that side, isn't he? He was on the far side, the assistant, so he can't conclusively give it either. But the one that I spoke to a lot of people yesterday. As I said, I was surrounded by a lot of footballing people. Some were saying it's a foul. Some were not saying it's a foul. Me personally, is the two hands by Joelinton on his back? Yes. For me, is the force though? No, there isn't. I think what the defender's trying to do, is it Saliba or Gabriel? I think it's Gabriel, isn't it? For me, the ball's come across and he's bending down to try and back flick the ball, and he doesn't do it. And Joelinton has challenged him. Just because there's contact, it doesn't mean to say that it's a foul. I mean, the referee could have took the easy decision and not give it, and so could Stockley Park. But I think, personally, the defender has got to be stronger. He's got to not try. He's just got to try and head it. He's just got to try and maybe he's headed back where it came from, headed out for a corner, headed out for a throw-in, headed out to the edge of the box. Don't be trying to bend down and flick it backwards and being clever, because that's what it was. Just be strong and head it out. He hasn't done that. Ball's dropped. He's put it in the goal. Now, it is one of them things. Now, obviously, what's happened afterwards with Mikel Arteta absolutely spits his dummy out for me. I mean, I know he's disappointed, and he will be all hyped up because of the game. But I was just sort of saying to you before we came on air, it was only a month ago, he was praising the referees, just sort of saying, we've got to have the backs, they're trying the best, there is going to be decisions, they will get things wrong, and now he's completely spat his dummy out. Arsenal have even confirmed what he's been saying, which again is ridiculous.
Well, I'm going to come on to that in a minute, because I'm actually going to play out a bit of his post-match interview, Mikel Arteta's, before we even hear from Eddie Howe. So we'll come on to that in a tick. Before that, I want to get Marco's striker's perspective on whether that was a foul or not.
I think it's a foul because, I thought Steve's right, the other two decisions, I think that they had to let it play on, but I think the defender is in between the striker and the ball, and the only way that he can get to the ball is to go through the defender. And I think he's a big, powerful player. It's all right saying if you've got your hands on someone, you're not affecting them, but you are affecting their balance. You are pushing them down. And if he did, he was bending down because it was quite a low cross, and I think he was either going to try and whichever option he was going to take. If Steve said if he was going to flick it back behind him or flick it away from the goal to the opposite side, you've got to come back up to do that. You've got to stoop and then come flick bring your body back up. and the presence of the hands on his back stopped him from doing that. So I was surprised that that the goal was given for the foul, that nothing else. I think that was that was the issue. But look, it's the reaction is too much, because as we've talked about with Sunderland, this happens week in, week out. Yeah. Newcastle will get something go against them in the next few weeks, you can guarantee.
Okay, we're going to come on to the reaction, as I say, in a moment. Couple of other quick things, and then we'll hear that, and then come back, Steve. Kai Havertz, firstly, could well have been sent off, probably should have been sent off for his tackle on Longstaff. What do you think about that one?
I think it's a sending off, but in all fairness as well, I think Guimaraes should have been sent off.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah, okay.
Because that is just ridiculously stupid. It's a lack of discipline. He's got previous for that as well, because listen, you don't want to take that aggression and stuff like that out of his game, but at the same time he cannot be doing things like that.
I'm surprised that isn't dealt with retrospectively, Steve, isn't it? That's the strange thing about this system,
because you can tell, you can see it's absolutely
the intent is just to hit the player on the head, on the head. Yeah. It's a bad challenge.
So he should have gone, but so should Havertz.
I'm amazed in the current climate that didn't happen.
What's that?
I think the Havertz one, Byrne helped him, didn't he, by jumping out the way, really?
Yeah. I think he's fortunate because he never he didn't actually catch him.
Yeah.
I mean, the leading foot misses him, and if that catches him, that's doing some damage.
He was out of control, and then I think probably
he's off the ground. Both legs are off the ground. That is out of control. That's off. Yeah. That's a sending off.
Well, let's hear some reactions and post-match reaction. We'll start with the Arsenal manager, Mikel Arteta, because he wasn't very happy at full time.
Because it's embarrassing what happened and how this goal stands in the Premier League, in the best league that we say is the best league in the world. We really have to think about it deeply, because I've been 20 years in this country and now I feel ashamed. It's an absolute disgrace. You look it on the TV, it's an absolute disgrace, and it's too much at stake. We are trying to do incredible things to be at the highest level every single week. When we are not good enough, I'm the first one to put my hand up and say it's my fault, my responsibility. This is unacceptable. I don't want to be in people's hands if that's the outcome. For sure it's not. It's too difficult.
And then came the statement. Arsenal Football Club wholeheartedly supports Mikel Arteta's post-match comments after yet more unacceptable refereeing and VAR errors on Saturday evening. And it goes on to say the Premier League's the best league in the world with the best players, coaches and supporters who all deserve better. PGMOL urgently needs to address the standard of officiating and focus on action, which moves us all on from retrospective analysis, attempted explanations and apologies. I don't know, we like the retrospective analysis, that's what we're here for. But it was a bizarre thing to do, Steve, wasn't it, to release that statement? You can kind of understand Arteta post-match, even if you don't agree with him, but to then release the statement as a club as well, just seems
it's getting like politics, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have to be brutally honest as well. Whilst I didn't think it was a foul, I can't believe it actually was given. Because they had three options, really, the referees, to sort of say no, just to stop all the controversy, if you want. But yeah, I mean, listen, managers do come out, and managers, the jobs are on the line, ultimately. And of course, he feels massively aggrieved from it. It's certainly the Joelinton one is certainly subjective. It'll split people half and half. I can guarantee if it was the other way around, Newcastle fans would be asking for a foul. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. I had one yesterday at my game where the manager wasn't happy, but as I said, he'd have wanted it if it was the other way around. But I mean, I've watched the documentary with Arsenal Arteta, and it's a little bit out there on some of the stuff and his methods and stuff like that. But it seems to be working for him. I mean, the lads seem to take the mick out of him. But I mean, there was one report that sort of said he was pretty much close to tears, if not in tears, after the game. Now, I know it's a passionate game, but it's a game. At the end of the day, it's not life and death. So I think he has to sort of just maybe settle down a little bit. I get we all get involved in it and we all kind of have reactions afterwards, but he is in a position of real authority, and him coming out and saying that, and then the club coming out and doing what they're doing is not helping anybody, particularly the referees, when it's difficult as it is.
Eddie, the ironic thing as well is that no one from Arsenal is saying what a ridiculous decision it was that our goalkeeper made in that. You know, to be he was past his first post when that cross came in. That's why he didn't reach it. But no one's criticising him for his mistake. You know, that's the irony of it. They're happy to criticise VAR for making mistakes, but not their own players for the mistakes that they made. It is a little bit rich. Yeah.
I think a real big thing, which everybody's forgetting, and I tell you what, managers are very good at this. They're very good at what I call deflecting, because his team were poor, they were outfought, and they had one shot on target. When you've got that capability like they have in their strike power, one shot on target, it's deflecting away from what his team didn't do. But that again is huge praise on Newcastle for stopping them doing that. But it's a great get out for Arteta. It's a brilliant get out for him. And I think what he should be doing is, yes, he'd be disappointed with the decision, but I tell you what, start with your team. That's why you don't win leagues, because you come to places like Newcastle and you get nothing.
Now, let's hear a little bit from Eddie Howe, who also shared his thoughts on the performance of the officials.
For me, there was just too many yellow cards in the game. I don't think there needed to be that many. I don't think it was a problem, really. The discipline of the game wasn't a problem until the tackle from Havertz, which because I was close to, had a good view of it. I thought it was dangerously high. But of course that one went with a yellow, and then I think from there it became very bitty, as you say, very difficult. And as I say, probably too many yellow cards, but whether that stemmed from the reaction to that tackle, I don't know. I actually feel quite emotional now speaking to you, just because you go through so much on the sideline, you're willing your team on in every way, and you're seeing the players giving absolutely everything to achieve the result. So I think when you see that mix, and you feel the energy and emotion of the crowd, you get swept up in it. But hopefully we were able to make some good decisions from the sidelines and try and help the players who, as I say, I can't praise enough for what they've given me, not just today but the last few weeks. I think they've been absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, and they got the job done. Arsenal weren't happy. Jamal Lascelles wasn't happy that Jorginho didn't shake his hand at the end, Steve, was he?
Embarrassing. It shows a complete and utter lack of respect and a lack of professionalism. Yes, there's times when you've lost a game, you're really annoyed. And, there's like there's definitely a swear word in there. But at the same time, you've just got to suck it up. And whilst it kills you to shake somebody's hand, it's the right thing to do. I mean, we've seen it before with managers. Sometimes we've seen managers and they've just walked down the tunnel, and that's been brought up and highlighted. We've seen, I think it was last season, or maybe the season before, with Antonio Conte and Tuchel, when he grabbed his hand and stuff. Mm-hmm. But to not shake the player's hand, I mean, that is just petty, childish, embarrassing.
And another issue that we need to mention, Newcastle released a statement after some online abuse sent to a couple of their players. Newcastle United strongly condemns the racist abuse sent to Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Willock via social media following Saturday's victory over Arsenal. Our message is clear: there is no room for racism in football or society. We are providing support to Bruno and Joe, and will work with the relevant authorities and social media platforms to identify those responsible so that they can be held to account. It does keep happening. This is the sort of story that unfortunately we've had to report on quite a lot, but we will continue to report on it when it happens, and hopefully it will eventually be stamped out. But again, it's something pretty horrible to see.
It's sickening, really. I mean, we're supposed to be trying to educate people, but these are just people that I don't get it. I really don't get it. I mean, we've got this happening time and time again. I think there was, in one of the lower divisions, there was a player scored, and you could see one of the fans clearly coming out and gesturing to the player who was black and doing his actions, which is absolutely, deplorable. Not only are we getting that, you heard on the game last night, if you were listening to the Luton and Liverpool game, the chants, with obviously the tragic stuff that happened with Hillsborough. It's unacceptable. Listen, there's banter, but that is not banter. That is disgusting behaviour, which there's no need, not only in football, but just in society.
Give us a call, Newcastle supporters, about anything connected to the game at the weekend or looking ahead to tomorrow. Newcastle now 6th in the Premier League, 7 points off the top. So well in touch. Dortmund tomorrow in the Champions League. We'll chat to Razor later. If you want to have your say, well, this is the number that you need to call.
Total Sport North East. Call free 0800 234 6565. BBC Radio Newcastle.
If you'd like to send us a WhatsApp message, 08000 321 333. Start your message with the letters BBC, as you must do if you send us a text message, 81333 on text. So, yeah, we want to get as many messages as we can read out between now and the end of the programme. Always lots on a Monday. I will do our best. Wayne, Newcastle supporter, good evening. Welcome to Total Sport. How are you doing?
Good evening, lads. How are you doing?
Hi, Wayne.
Very good, Wayne. How are you?
Yeah, very, very good. First of all, I just want to mention that a fantastic win for it on Saturday, and much needed. Arteta's spitting his dummy out, but sometimes you need to look, and I think it's about time it went again. It went for us instead of against us, like it normally does in these big games. Me personally, I didn't think there was anything wrong with our goal. They looked at 3 different situations and couldn't come to any conclusive evidence that there was any wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we said, I mean, I think it's definitely subjective that the Joelinton and Gabriel won.
Yeah,
If you see that 100 times, 50 people will see it. Well, like I said, I think for me, I'd give my reasons why I didn't think it was a foul, but I can guarantee you that there will be some fans, Newcastle fans, who think it's possibly is a foul.
That thought, like, because he's put his hands on him, like it's an automatic foul, but I just don't think there was enough in it to make him go down.
Well, I don't, and that's why I've given the reason that I have. But as I said, it's one of them ones where if it's against you, 100% you're asking for a foul.
Yeah.
But when it's for you, as I said, we all know Joelinton's a big, strong boy.
Yeah.
I mean, his game's changed dramatically. He's aggressive now, and there is two hands on him. I don't think there's enough pressure on the defender for him to go down. We see players in general, they'll get a touch and their legs go under them. I don't understand that. I just don't understand the mechanics of people's bodies, if that's how it does. And I've said it so many times, if I got touched like that in Tesco's, am I going to throw myself into cereals and stuff like that? No, I'm not. So why do it on a football pitch? But as I said, it's one of them ones, listen, you'll take it all day of the week. I thought we were more aggressive than them anyway.
Yeah,
but Newcastle's become a team.
That's coming in.
I think Newcastle's become a team which teams, for the vast majority, do not like playing against, because we're a team of being, we're like being horrible. We've got lads that love a fight, that love a battle.
Yeah, because they love the physicality and the up for the fight, and that's what, like, even when he's making the changes, like the lads are coming in, like the Man United game last week. Like, I looked at the team sheet and I thought we could be in for a torrid night, yeah, but the lads that are coming in are doing the job in it. It just shows the togetherness and team spirit that's just all through the squad, not just the main 11 on the day.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same when I looked at the team before the Man United game, and I looked at Man United's team. Yes, they'd been definitely soundly beaten by City at the weekend. But you just look at their team and you look at the names and you're thinking, well, he's decent on his day. He's decent on his day. I mean, in all fairness, they're not at Man United because they're not decent. And I looked at our team and I just thought, this I'm not too sure about this one. But, I mean, it was a great performance. And as I said, if there was one thing that the manager's got to be delighted about is, and I'm sure the Newcastle fans is, I think we've all pretty much thought, because of all the games that's going to be this season and the travelling and stuff like that, is the squad strong enough? And whilst I do feel as though it still should be strengthened in January, I thought it was a brilliant sort of insight for the manager to look at these lads in a game situation, because normally he's just got them training, and just thought, I'm quite happy to put any one of these in.
Anything else, Bruno? We're just running into the news. So any other points that you wanted to make at all about the game?
I just wanted to quickly, before I go, just reiterate on what you were saying, Steve, about Bruno's his discipline. I think it's a bit worrying at times, because it's needless stuff that he's doing, walking a tightrope for bookings. Like you say, he was lucky not to be sent off on Saturday.
Yeah, he will get a sent. I mean, as I said, players know what he's like. Opposition players, opposition managers know what he's like. Referees switching onto it. We all know as fans, when we watch the game, you'll just think, I tell you what, he's a player that you can get at, because if you can wind him up, he's going to lose his head a little bit. And whilst you don't want to take out that aggressiveness in his game, because that's what makes him one of the player that he is, the silliness, the petulance, the daftness of actually doing them kind of things, because he's done. I think he does a one when he just runs into the player, and that was against Arsenal as well, and just barges him, and he gets away with that as well. And I'm thinking, wow, what's he thinking of?
Almost Luke O'Neill-esque, isn't it? Some of that. Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Wayne, for your points this evening. Good call. 0800 234 6565 at the number. Just time before the news at 7 for a few of your messages. Mark, who's a Newcastle fan, says, isn't it funny how Arteta just a month ago said we need to support referees and mistakes happen? You mentioned that as well, didn't you, Steve? When it's two of his competitors both dropping points. And now he blew up for something that wasn't even that bad. It wasn't as bad as us versus Palace last year, Spurs versus Liverpool this year, or even as bad as the Wolves penalty this weekend. None of those three incidents were big enough to overturn. He's acting like it's the worst decision ever made, and it's only ever happened to them. On the football, though, I thought Lascelles was unbelievable. He's always been a great defender when in a battle, says Mark. Go on.
If you were Gary O'Neill, you've got a reason, because they have had three horrendous decisions against them. We know there was the one at the weekend as well against Sheffield United. That's not a penalty. The one, I think it's for Newcastle. For me, that's not a pen. And there was a one before that as well. So if anybody's got a gripe, it should be him.
Brian says, tell Marco our goal on Saturday was our first controversial goal since we were robbed of one at Liverpool last season on Isak's debut. That says Brian.
Well, yeah, but there's other decisions that go in a game as well, and whether it's someone getting a red card or whatever. There's lots of decisions that form a game or influence a game. So, yeah, but these things will. Everybody gets bad decisions. Everybody gets ones that go for them. It does usually weigh itself out. I think the issue with these top managers is. That it's so crucial because you can lose. They're going maybe through a season and you're losing two or three games.
Keep the messages coming in. 08000 321 333. Start your message with the letters BBC. If you are on WhatsApp, you can text 81333 again starting BBC. Or give us a call. 0800 234 6565 is the number, and it is free to call that number. Right then, Graham is in Newcastle. He says, Simon, why is everybody referring to Newcastle's goal as a VAR controversy? All VAR did was confirm that there was no evidence that the on-field officials hadn't made any obvious errors, as there was no proof of the ball being out of play, nor a foul, nor an offside. So then the on-field decision was correct. Arteta's whining has no basis in fact, and it just makes him and his club look like a bunch of bad losers, says Graham.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I say, sometimes a defeat is hard to take. But, I'm pretty sure that they've been on the other side of that as well. When they've gotten a decision which is, probably in their favour. As a manager, as a player, as a fan, you've got to take the rough with the smooth. I mean, as I sort of said, the way that he went on, I just didn't think there was any need for it. I think, of course, you can show your disappointment, but there's ways and means of going about that, and I don't think he did it in the right way.
Tom in Gate said, all that hoo-ha from Arteta, yet Arsenal could have played all week and still not scored a goal. Tomorrow at 5:45 then, it is Borussia Dortmund against Newcastle United in the Champions League. Now, we will be providing you with commentary of that game here on BBC Radio Newcastle. We'll be building up at 5 o'clock. So don't be caught out by that. Total Sport on air earlier. I want to have a bit of analysis at halftime and at full time as well. Olivier Bernard will be joining us in the studio for that. Group F is pretty tight, isn't it? The Magpies, well, they need a win to get back into the top two. Our Newcastle United commentator, Matthew Reisbeck, is in Germany and has joined us now, no doubt in between stuffing his face with bratwurst and those massive glasses of beer that you can get over there.
I hope it's better than the one that we had at Newcastle, because that wasn't pleasant.
No, you're still not happy about the sausage that you were dished up in the media area ahead of that game, but I think it's time to move on, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a massive sausage connoisseur, but that wasn't to my taste.
Well, you are a sausage connoisseur, aren't you, Razor?
It's a bit of a sausage fest out here, Pridey, if you go into any of the shops and all of the stalls and market stands in the centre of Dortmund. I had a schnitzel sandwich earlier. It was chicken schnitzel, and it was lovely. So, yeah, we're looking forward to having more German culinary delights over the next couple of days.
And Eddie Howe has been speaking to the media as well, hasn't he? He's given a bit more detail on a couple of injured players. It's not great news.
No, it's not. I'm speaking to you, Pridey, from outside the away section at Dortmund Signal Iduna Park, where around 4,000 Newcastle fans will be entering the stadium tomorrow afternoon for the match. But they're going to be watching a team that once again is missing a number of players through injuries. Firstly, they're not expecting to have anybody back from an injury layoff for tomorrow's game, and indeed for Bournemouth at the weekend, so it'll be after the internationals when players come back. But Eddie Howe provided an update on a couple of the latest injury victims. Firstly, Dan Burn, who, when he went up for a header against Arsenal over the top of a couple of players, landed awkwardly, was clearly in a lot of pain. I think he was given some tablets, some painkillers by the physio, and he made it through to half-time, but then was replaced. And Eddie Howe says it's going to be a long-term layoff for Burn. He says it will be a few months that he is going to be out of action, so that's another blow to a really injury hit and depleted squad. With a problem with his lower spine, Eddie Howe says. And also Matt Targett, who you saw go off in the first couple of minutes at Manchester United last week. Well, there's no definitive time frame, but Eddie Howe suggested that it will be around 3 months for Matt Targett, probably as a minimum. That's another bad injury, so they are losing players almost with every match, every week that passes, and the squad is very light and very stretched, probably in just about every area of the pitch at the moment.
And you've been speaking to fans. We'll hear a bit from Eddie Howe in just a moment, but you've been speaking to fans as you do when you travel away, Reza, and they've been making their way to Dortmund, haven't they, by various means, it's fair to say?
Yes, certainly. You can't fly direct to Dortmund from Newcastle. In fact, you can only go direct to Dortmund from London Stansted Airport. Some manage to do that, but obviously it's a long journey before you get on the plane. I said that there'll be around 4,000 in the stadium. That's the official allocation. You might find one or two more popping up in home areas, but the concourses, some of them at Dortmund Stadium, don't have segregation, and you know, part of the fan culture and the welcome that you get in Germany at football grounds is that different sets of supporters can mix. We think that there'll be around 10,000 Geordies, black and whites, who've travelled here, so more than half of them without tickets, and certainly for the Newcastle section. But those we've spoken to want to be here because they want to be with fellow Newcastle fans, just to sample the atmosphere, to be part of it, and to follow their team, even if they can't get into the stadium, around the continent and at the top of European football again. So a lot travelled yesterday with us from Newcastle, connecting via Amsterdam or Frankfurt. Many have got trains through Europe and are arriving today. There are plenty of supporters who've come to Dortmund, which is perhaps not the most obvious tourist destination in the west of Germany, but for the football
you having to be
club.
Careful to be polite there, weren't you?
I am. There's no one around.
Who's listening to you? Okay.
But nearby, you have the brilliant venue and destination of Dusseldorf, which you can fly direct to from Newcastle, and Cologne's not far either. So there's a party in Dortmund in the centre, but many thousands of fans are also staying in Dusseldorf nearby. It's about an hour by car, and they're going to come through for the match tomorrow. And there's an area in Dortmund in the Altstadt, the old town, the centre, that's been designated for Newcastle fans. It's open from 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, where a DJ is going to be on, banging out the tunes. The bars are going to be open in that area. There's some temporary stands that are going to serve beers to the Newcastle supporters, so they're going to have an all-day party, it seems. The Dortmund fans are welcome as well, and that's how they're going to prepare for the match from tomorrow.
Okay, so the Arsenal match would have taken quite a bit out of them. Eddie Howe's been talking about that and the latest additions to his injury list, hasn't he, Reza? So what's he been saying?
Well, let's hear from Eddie Howe now, Pridey, on BBC Radio Newcastle. At the press conference, the UEFA Champions League pre-match press conference, was Eddie Howe and Fabian Schär of Newcastle United, who has played here at Dortmund Stadium before, earlier in his career. Let's recap on the injury news firstly, because Eddie Howe explained the situation with Dan Burn and Matt Targett out for a few months, each of them, and the squad now is really being tested.
We are. No denying that. I think we've been stretched for a few weeks. But with every player that we lose, the problem looms a little bit larger, because if we lose players from this position, then we become in a very difficult position. But there's nothing we can do. There's no transfer window. As I said, a lot of the players have longer term issues, but the players that we do have stepped up, and they've all given more, and that is the mentality we're going to need in the coming weeks. All we can do is approach the next game in the best way we can, and then the international break will come at a good time, but we'll get very little relief from that in terms of players back after that.
So definitely one change to the Newcastle team tomorrow, with Dan Burn, who started against Arsenal, not available for Eddie Howe. The change at half-time on Saturday saw Kieran Trippier move across to left-back, which is where he's played quite a bit of football in an England shirt before, and Tino Livramento was introduced and played very well once again. It was Livramento's 7th appearance in a Newcastle shirt following his summer move from Southampton. He actually hasn't started a Premier League match. He's come off the bench 5 times in the league, 2 starts in the League Cup, and he was brilliant in both, but he hasn't yet featured for Newcastle in Europe. So I asked Eddie Howe a little earlier if Livramento is ready to show what he can do in the Champions League.
Yeah, I think Tino's a very good player. I think he showed that coming on to a difficult moment on Saturday, because that game was evenly poised. The atmosphere was red hot. He's playing against a very good opponent. He's come on and he's done really well again. And Kieran did really well as well, having to switch his position. So that we'll make the decision based on all the information we have in terms of how we go with the team selection. And fingers crossed the back four's unaffected.
And the match itself tomorrow, they're all big in the Champions League, but at the point we're at in the group, the halfway stage, a win, a draw and a defeat, and they've faced each of their opponents once, Milan, PSG and Dortmund. We're now getting to a position where Newcastle need to think about what comes next, and another defeat would not end the possibilities of more European football in the new year. Far from it, because nothing gets decided at this stage. But if they were to lose to Dortmund, it would make it more difficult for them to get through to the next phase of the Champions League, not least because Dortmund would be ahead of Newcastle on the head-to-head record, and that's why currently, despite both teams having 4 points and Newcastle having a superior goal difference, Newcastle are third in the group and Dortmund are in second. The top 2 go through to the next phase of the Champions League. The third place team goes into the Europa League, so they always have that option if they can pick up a few more points in their next 3 matches. Tomorrow's, though, against Dortmund in Germany. Does Eddie Howe think, given the picture in Group F, that it is a must-win?
Well, it's inbuilt in me. I think every game's a must-win, and the term probably is overused in football, because I just feel that's the only way that we prepare. We prepare to try and win every game. We never have anything else in our minds, so that's what we'll try and do in this one. Reflecting on our game against them, which was just a short time ago, and trying to get the margins in our favour from that, because it was a tight game. There was very little between the two teams, I thought, but they deserve to win ultimately, and now we have to try and play better than we did a couple of weeks ago.
Steve, you were at the home game against Dortmund. How do you feel they should approach the game tomorrow night?
Well, as the player ordinarily, I mean, obviously you've got to be a little bit cautious. You're playing away from home. It is in the Champions League. I was impressed by Dortmund. I thought they were very well organised. I think on the back of basically destroying PSG, I think, myself included, probably, thinking because of Dortmund's results, Newcastle would probably blow them away with the atmosphere and all that kind of thing, but that wasn't the case. I thought they were very well structured, really, really good team. Now, they'll want to bounce back as well, because obviously they played in a big game at the weekend against Bayern and got pumped 4-0. Harry Kane again scoring 3 goals. So, of course, they'll want to turn their fortunes around by putting on a really good performance, because obviously that result against Bayern was at home as well. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult game. I don't think there's any issues with bringing Livramento in, and there's no issues for me with Kieran Trippier playing on the left, because he has done that quite a lot, and he plays there for England. And you can just imagine, though, Matt Targett is just thinking it's absolute sod's law, because he's been kind of holding out for his time, because obviously Dan Burn's been excellent, and Dan Burn gets injured, and it's his time to shine, because he's going to be out for a while, and he gets injured, and he's possibly out even longer.
Yes.
So it's just typical that happens.
Very, very bad luck. Razor, thank you. What are you up to tonight then? Oh, he's gone. Lost him
for another sausage.
Lost. He's already gone to do.
Schnitzel.
Well, he did say he did describe it as a sausage fest. Those were his words. John says, "How come none of you laughed at that? Why would we laugh, John?"
I did.
Did you? He sniggered at that. But he will be off to enjoy himself. Oh, I think he's back. Yeah. Oh, we've got him back.
Hello, Pridey.
We were just asking what you were doing tonight. That's all. No, that's all right. We pretty much finished with you, but we were interested in what you were going to do this evening. So
okay,
we were speculating.
I have an itinerary. We've been doing plenty of media work at Dortmund. I've been up to see the broadcast position ahead of Total Sport. Earlier time of 5 o'clock tomorrow, remember. We will start earlier with all the build-up to a 5:45 kickoff. The stadium is so impressive inside. It doesn't look as big from the outside as the imposing San Siro, but when you get in, you are really wowed by the scale of it. And the atmosphere is intense, with the yellow wall where the noisy Dortmund fans stand. And Newcastle dealt with it in Milan. It's going to be interesting to see how they get on tomorrow. But I think that's part of the fascination, Pridey, of this fixture for a lot of Newcastle supporters coming here to experience this, because Dortmund are unique as a club in what they do and the way they do it. So, just finishing at the stadium. Then we're going back to the centre of Dortmund, and we're going to mix and mingle with fans. We were speaking to many of them this morning. We're going to have a chat to some more supporters. So have a look on Twitter later at BBC Newcastle for some of our videos with fans. And if you're on Instagram as well, it's at BBC Newcastle. We'll put some of our chats with supporters who'll be enjoying themselves, getting ready for tomorrow on social media later.
Thank you very much indeed, Razor. He doesn't stop working. He's not just going to go and have a beer now and a sausage. He's got more graft to do, and he has more editing to do as the night goes on, because the more interviews he does, the later they are, the more editing they require. That's my experience anyway. But yeah, we'll talk to Razor again tomorrow, as he mentioned, building up to the game from 5 o'clock tomorrow evening here on BBC Radio Newcastle. Let's bring in Gary, who's on the line. Gary's a Newcastle supporter. How are you doing, Gary?
Hello, mate. How are you?
Very well.
Hi,
how are
Gary.
you? And where are you?
We have just pulled up at the hotel in Dusseldorf.
Excellent.
Oh, very nice. Are you going out for your sausage?
All right, isn't it? Well, I said try and get a hot dog or something, isn't it?
I think
And
you'll
they
manage.
say when in Rome.
Exactly. I don't think you'll struggle too hard there.
Well, yeah, because Razor said it's a sausage fest. So you've got your pick.
That's what we're looking for.
Obviously, making the most of the trip, Gary, yeah?
Oh, definitely. We've been on a right mission today. So we stopped off in Holland on the way through, and so it's been quite a good journey, to be fair. And a couple of carloads of fellow teammates on the tunnel this morning at 9:30.
When the night is young, so you'll see plenty more, I would have thought. Don't want to overdo it tonight, the night before the game, do you?
Well, no, not really. I don't want to sit there with a hangover tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon either.
Yeah, because it's an earlier kickoff.
Really,
yeah. How do you see it going tomorrow then?
Hopefully we can nick it by a goal, I think. Always, it's going to be a tough one, because they did actually play us off the park when they played us at home. So it is going to be a tough one. But yeah, I've got to go undercover, because our tickets have come through and we're sat in the German end. So
okay.
So yeah, we're undercover. So we're next to the away fans, so that's not too bad.
Well, yeah, Razor was telling us earlier.
Good laugh.
Razor was telling us earlier that there's no kind of segregation within the concourses, etc., which you would normally get, and there's a bit of a culture in Germany of both sets of fans mingling together. So hopefully that will stand you in good stead, Gary.
Well, this is it, isn't it? This is what we're saying. I'm just quite looking forward to the beer in my seat bit. That's the one bit we're looking forward to, the beer in the seat.
Well, that's part of the. That's also part of the culture. Watching football on the continent, isn't it? Yes, indeed.
I know, yeah. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why we can't do it in the UK, really.
Do you think it's a match that Newcastle have to win?
I think a draw would be okay, to be honest. A draw against Dortmund, and then next, we'll beat PSG 4 again, easy 4 in Paris, and then get 3 points against Milan at home, I think. So yeah, I think we could drop 2 points somewhere on the road, but yeah, I think we've got to make sure we win all of our home games. So, and I think we've got to try and get something out of this game tomorrow, just because obviously we drop points against them at home, so we've got to at least try and get a point on the road. But our injury list isn't looking very good, is it, tomorrow?
It's not. No, it's not. What do you think of that assessment, Steve?
I'd take a draw. I have to be honest. I mean, as I said, I was very, very impressed with them. I thought how they approached the game, and I think in periods, kind of cut Newcastle up a little bit. Had chances, probably should have been more than one. Probably some Newcastle fans will disagree, but I was pleasantly surprised by how good they were. But they'll want to bounce back, as I said, after the game against Bayern. They know it's not a great result against them at home as well. The manager will expect a response. But yeah, I think for me, and I'm pretty sure that most Newcastle fans, if you were to sort of see you can have a draw now, take it or leave it, you'd take it.
Well, enjoy your evening, Gary. Enjoy your evening in Dusseldorf.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy your evening in Dortmund tomorrow. And thanks very much for speaking to us.
We will do. That's all right. No worries. Anytime, chaps.